Hey guys, welcome to The Great Debate, Season 2. We are back in the building. How's everyone doing?
Yeah,
Wicked.
Yeah.
So we are at the front room in Croydon. We are at this amazing music and art space. Go online and check them out. They're doing great work in the community and they might just be perfect for your event. Okay, so I'm joined as usual by members of the trusty panel. Introduce yourself.
Becky. Joseph.
We've also got some members on the screen. Technology is helping us. Ryan, what's ATL saying, bro?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Just trying to survive. Good to be here.
Wicked. Alicia?
Hey everyone. Hey everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey.
You have to say a few more words to activate the Zoom. Branware. Branware. He's not around.
Brother Noel.
No.
Wow.
You are muted.
Yeah. I'm just like, it said my internet connections.
Oh, you're having a mare. All right, cool. Wicked. Wicked. All right, cool. As usual, we've got guests with us, esteemed guests, and
I've got internet issues, as it looks like, you know?
yeah, cool.
Yeah, we had that bit.
All right, cool. Yeah, cool. We got you know. So we've got guests in the building, and our guests are here to help us go deeper in, help us to get even more perspective on the stuff we're talking about. So, our first guest is a Mobo-nominated artist from Manchester. She is dubbed the little lady with the big voice. She's been a firm fixture of the UK gospel scene for the last 10 years. Welcome, Nicola.
Hey guys. Good evening. Afternoon. Good morning.
Looking nice and relaxed. Looking nice and relaxed with a lovely cup of, what are you drinking?
Bit of a decaf coffee, do you know what I mean?
Okay, cool. I was just making sure it wasn't Uncle Ray and his nephew. Well, it's all right, actually, please. All right, cool. So our next guest, we know her already. She's been with us before. She is a passionate worship leader and has written many songs. Many songs. But one that we'll all know from recent times is one of the biggest tracks to come out of the UK with our brother Noel Robinson. Her name is Donna Akodu.
Hey guys. Hello. Good to be back.
And last but not least, we have a guest that hails from Walsall. Midlands, Walsall. Am I doing it right? Walsall. Okay, she is a Mobo award-winning artist and celebrity vocal coach. She's had global success touring the world in the UK, US and Africa, as well as opening for the likes of Music Soul Child. Please welcome Rachel Kerr.
Hi guys. Thanks for having me.
So thanks so much for being in the house, guys. Today's topic and question is one that is very dear to my heart. And if it's dear to my heart, then it's definitely dear to your heart. You know what I mean? And it's something that's actually really been flagged up more as a thing recently. And me as a guy has not really paid attention to it enough, and I realized that can't continue. So I'm really happy that we're able to have this discussion here today. My wife always lets me know, my wife Stephanie always lets me know and keeps me relevant with these kind of topics, and we talk about this kind of thing a lot. I'm going to tell you what the topic is in a minute. But we talk about this thing a lot, and I realized so much how it's easy to miss other people's experiences. So we want to shed some light on that today. The question we're going to be asking is there a glass ceiling for women in the UK gospel music scene? Now, I'm sure it's going to open a whole can of worms, but I think it's good for us to have this conversation and to just be educated. I'm not going to be saying a lot, to be honest. I'm going to really be just listening. I want to hear what each of you have to say about what it's like being a woman in what can often be a very male space. Do you know what I mean? and what your experience is like, good and bad, positive and negative, whatever, just to enlighten us and educate us and give us a little bit more perspective on what it's like. So, Bex, I'm going to come to you first, you know. I know. No, I'm just going to ask you, like, would you say, I'm going to ask you the question, would you say there's a glass ceiling? From your experience, have you noticed anything in the way you've been treated maybe different to a male counterpart or anything like that?
I think, I mean, as a choir director, I can only speak for what I do. I think male choir directors get a bit more freedom.
Okay.
And I don't know how to word it. That's why I didn't want you to come to me first. I was trying to think in my head.
It's cool. This is a safe space. The internet.
I don't know how to.
I'm joking. Sorry. I couldn't resist. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure how to word. You might have to come back to me for a second.
Okay, that's cool.
But it's literally I feel as a choir director, there's a lot more that guys get away with than I can. I also think there's a way that people speak to when you're a male. It's like I've seen it with you and me together doing LC stuff, and like how people will address you about something and how they address me about something, and I'm like, why wouldn't you talk to me the same way you speak to X?
Yeah,
like we're
a bit more condescending or something. Okay.
So it's like little things like that, but I've got to figure it. Let me think about it a little bit longer.
It's all good. All right, Donna, I'm going to come to you as somebody who is a worship leader and writes songs, makes music and stuff, so is often very visible on stage. You have the mic in your hand, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. So what would you say has been your experience? Is it something you consciously think about? Is it something you don't think about?
Statistically, even if we were to look outside of the church and you look at statistics for black women in general, okay, there's an issue, there's a problem.
Yes.
We are not seen as the articulate, the go-getters, the people that would have businesses and all those kind of things, based upon the statistics that the world is measuring.
Totally.
Unfortunately, that kind of has seeped in to the Christian world. And I can only speak as a worship leader.
Yeah.
So for me, I know that I have stood in an environment where I have been, there's three of us talking, one guy, me, and another guy, and I'm completely ignored in the conversation.
Wow.
Completely. They're swapping numbers. When are we going to meet for coffee? And I'm standing there and I'm like, am I invisible?
Yeah. It wasn't.
You know, am I not standing here? Wow. You know, and that's just a small thing. But there are other things as well that I think in the world of, and I can only speak about the world of worship, because that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
There is a real imbalance of, I mean, there are not that many visible black female worship leaders of the level of the Lara Martins or the Lou Fellinghams or anyone else you want to mention who's white and female. Why? I don't know. I've been leading worship for as long as I can remember. Since I was 16. I'm not giving away my age now, but it's been a while, right? So, you know, and should I be where I am now? Would I be somewhere different if I was white? Yeah, unfortunately, you often have those questions in the back of your head. Would I have got further based upon my credentials? And that's not me bragging about my credentials,
just what you've done,
but based upon my credentials and the platforms that I've led worship and the places that I've been, if I was white, would I have a different story? And unfortunately, we live in a society where you have to think, you do think like that. You'd like to think that the church will be different, and you'd like to think that that's not the case. But I could be standing there, and as has happened in the past with Noel, I'll be standing there, and they'll talk to Noel, but they won't talk to me. And that's male pastors, and it's not like I can go up to a male pastor, rock up to a male pastor and say, yeah, I'm a worship leader, can I come to your church? You just don't. There are certain things you just don't do. And those are things that you just don't do. I would not feel comfortable approaching a male pastor to come and sing at or lead worship at the church, or say, this is what I do, because I'm female. A guy could do that, and he could rock up and say, yeah, I'm a worship leader, da, da, da. And they'll banter and they'll have their conversation, but that same dynamic wouldn't happen with me as a female.
Okay.
You know, so there is this disparity between, there is a point that you're okay as a BV, you're good, we can work with that, but for you to say, I'm the one that's running this, you're like, are you? Oh, do you know what I mean? So there is a definite, and it's a non-verbal thing. So it's not necessarily something you can pinpoint and articulate, but you can feel it.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't, you're not going to stand there and call it out, but you're like, okay, let's just chalk that up to experience, and let's move on, dust it off, move on. But yeah, there've been many situations where I've been asked, oh, so you're the BV? No, I'm actually the worship leader.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? So it's sad to say that this happens, but it has happened. You know, I've had things where I've been asked by a church. They approach me now. I didn't approach them. They approached me. Oh, would you come and minister at our church? And I'm like, okay, this is what I would normally charge for me and a band to come. Oh no, we can't afford that. And trust me, it wasn't a lot of money. But we can't afford that. Okay, let me just bring it back. Okay, you still can't afford that. Okay, well, it's just me and a musician will come. This is what I want to give you. And this is what I can work with, because I'm traveling outside of London. I'm driving, they're driving, we got expenses to cover, etc., etc. And I like to honour people that play for me. So I don't want to just give it here, it's 25 quid. No, that's wrong. Do you know what I mean? And I do recall the response that the person did not hold back from telling me what the person in charge of the church said. And they turned and said, why would we pay you that much money for 20 minutes? It wasn't even a lot of money. If it was a lot of money, I'd be like, okay, I understand where you're coming from. It wasn't even a lot of money. Would a man have had that response? Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, you're not even honouring what I'm bringing. You're not even honouring who I am. For you to turn around and dismiss me, would you dismiss a man? What if it was Noel? Would you dismiss Noel Robinson like that? I'm not saying he hasn't had those situations where he's had to haggle at run-ins, right? However, I think that he would be treated differently from me. Bottom line.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm picking up already is that thing where it's that you can't always pinpoint it, but it's this feeling that so many women seem to have, where it's like, yeah, I know you did that. Like, would you have done that if it was a guy? Would you have done that? I guess the only thing I can liken it to is the feeling being a black person sometimes when you've been singled out, that we can all identify with, and you're like, yeah, would you have done that if I was white? You'd stopped by the police, or you know the obvious stuff, and it's like it starts to become like, wow, I didn't realise that was happening because I don't have to deal with that. You know what I mean? So, Rachel, let me ask you, like, from what you've heard so far, does much or any of that resonate with you? You occupy a different space because you're not a worship artist like that. Obviously, you're an artist who, I guess, happens to be from a gospel background and sing gospel / inspirational music and all the rest of it. So you often swing between the church and not the church. Would you say that any of this resonates with you? What's been your experience?
Yeah. As Donna was speaking, there's one thing that definitely resonated, and it was that, and actually, Becky, you said it as well, it was that you are definitely held to a different standard. There's definitely a lot more scrutiny, which I understand. I do feel like when a woman is passionate in her expression of her worship, because of how women for generations have been viewed as sometimes as objects, and there's a lot more of a sexualization that's attached to a woman than a man, there will be a certain level of scrutiny that will come with being a woman. and leading praise and worship, and just a bit more attention paid to what you wear and was it appropriate. And if a guy has a muscle top on, maybe it's okay, but if a woman has a heel that's a bit too high, or maybe a skirt that's a bit too tight fit, there's a different standard. And I think in the church over the generations we've come to embrace that. We've had generations that have warred with it. I can remember my mum saying there are times when she couldn't wear a lipstick, she couldn't wear a jean, couldn't wear a weave. There's so many things she had to compromise, and again, men weren't necessarily held to that same standard. So to a degree, I remember times when things would be said about my appearance that I know probably wouldn't have been had it been a male artist. That it didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. My main thing is I'm really not here. I'm not here for necessarily that. So, okay, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It is what it is. But I must say that when it comes to being heard, I never felt like I wasn't heard because I was a woman.
Okay.
But I must admit, I am covered. I do have a great management team who, even if that was the case, they probably wouldn't tell me. But whenever I've approached a pastor, I can't remember a time when I've said, hello, sir, my name's Rachel, nice to meet you, and felt like I was somewhat brushed aside because I was a woman. But at the same time, I never expect that. I never expect to present myself to somebody and them kind of brush me away. If they do, I don't instinctively say it's because I'm a woman, it's because I'm black. In my mind, you're struggling with something, and that's okay. We all have off days, but I'm going to keep it moving anyway. So to be honest, my mind doesn't go there. But it's funny, I was saying to Becky when we were off stage that whenever there have been ceilings that have been placed, and whether it be criticisms or misunderstandings, I've, over the years, through experience, been able to embrace that. Because what it does is it forces me to dig another well. Meaning, you do something, a ceiling's placed on top of it. Rather than get frustrated and be angry and bitter, which at first we may do, we're human. Okay, you don't get it, let me dig another well. Because the more wells I dig, the more I'm reaching water that could nourish an audience that need what God has given me. So I'm going to be honest, there are ceilings. It'd be very, very naive of me to sit here and say, because I haven't been burnt by it, it doesn't exist. But even if I have been burnt by it, I refuse to allow it to not allow me to dig another well. And if you don't want me at your church, or you belittle me because I'm a woman at your church, guess what? There's an arena over there that are calling me. There's a church over there that want what God has given me. So it exists. And when I hear it as you were speaking, I was getting upset because I'm like, how dare they, find value in somebody other than you, not because of the essence of your character or the quantity of your gift or the anointing that you carry, but because you're a woman. That's kind of simple. But at the same time, over the years, what I've learned is, even if it does exist, it's not my problem. God's very much giving me a mandate to perform. And if it bothers you because I'm a woman, I'm so sorry for you, but there's other people that need what God's given me. Yeah.
Okay, so thanks for that. And thanks, guys, for sharing your experiences so far. So I want to come actually to Noel, because there was a time not too long ago we were talking, and I really kind of admire Noel, because Noel's really quite awake to stuff that other people might not be awake to. And he said something when we were speaking, something that I've noticed, but I didn't think about it in this context. No, when we were talking, you mentioned, you was like, just look at the optics. There's a disconnect between, you go to any average church, you're likely to see it's going to be a woman leading worship. You just rock up, or even in your house, your mum probably sparked up the choruses or whatever. Like, it's going to be a woman that's leading worship, and you're just your average. Yeah? The moment we take it over the hump and start officializing or making it an artistry or anything like that, all of a sudden the women start to drop away, and all of the people that we identify as the top artists and all the rest of it, they're all male. Noel, do you want to, I've kind of just said it, but you will articulate it even better than me.
Yeah, I noticed something some years ago, might have been about 7-8 years ago. I noticed that there was a lack of women. Obviously, I occupied the kind of same space as Donna in the worship world. There was a lack of, especially black women, who who were at that place where they'd be itinerant, get invited to lead worship on different platforms. And I noticed that the bigger the platform was, especially a black woman, look, but the optics really is that every church that I go to, I can't recall the last church I've been to where, especially within the black church movement, where the main worship leader are women. It's the women that are leading the worship, singing. They're the ones that are out front with the microphone doing what they do. And I found that quite interesting, because for all of that, when you do, as you said, you get to that place, there's a ceiling where it's like all of a sudden they disappear. So I think for me, there's something about our community that kind of values maybe a particular model of what we call artistry. Donna's very conscious to say that she's a worship leader, not a gospel artist. And we kind of almost have to differentiate in many ways. That doesn't mean that you can't be an artist and not be both, but the both fulfilled, I would say, different roles, but they both actually occupy different platforms as well. Some of the platforms that I personally will be called to, they won't have any other form of artistry on it apart from a worship leader. So I know I'm conscious about me being called a worship leader. Most people think, why is that so important? I had a conversation with my A&R today in Toti, and I said, it's important because the word black was used to not define a style of music, but to actually define the color of someone's skin, gospel. So I think the women really have struggled to actually push in that place, even within our own community, seeing the artist and the female artist and their struggle in terms of trying to push through to be quote unquote celebrated in the same way that some of us men have been celebrated. And the thing for me, the disparity was that I don't work as hard maybe as some of the female artists that I know, and for all their pushing and really going for it, that there is a ceiling that says, well, actually, yeah, I know you push hard, but you can't really go above that. So it's just my observation, and what we need to do about it is actually champion. So some years ago, I began to champion all the women around me, and Donna will testify to that, pushing them forward, getting their albums together, getting their music writing, getting their stuff done so that they have something legacy. They also have a calling card that says, hey, this is what I've done. Therefore, nobody can question your worth because you've done an album, you've done these songs that you're singing. And I think that's something, but there is something that I'm glad we're having a conversation tonight. I can't put my finger on it, why that happens. And maybe the elephant in the room is like us men are just like, hey, we're hoggish with everything. Do you know what I mean? We keep our thumb down on the women. And it's, again, with female musicians as well. Some amazing female musicians that I think, part of the issue is that, again, in a male-dominated, quote-unquote scenario, they have to work extra hard to even be recognised, And I don't know if that's us men thinking. So I'm open to being challenged on the way we think and what we're doing to change that narrative.
Definitely. Thanks, Noel. Nicola, I'm going to come to you now. Tell us a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you've been in the UK gospel music kind of scene at least like 10 years or so, something like that. I always remember seeing your name around. Obviously, you were nominated for the MOBO, and obviously, because you're not from London as well, it kind of stuck out more of an attention seeker, because it's like this person from Manchester. Okay, what's her deal? What's she about? All the rest of it. What's been your journey, kind of, not only coming from Manchester, but as a female, as a female gospel artist?
I think in the beginning, and I'm sure Rachel can probably concur with this, you can't, because you're an artist, the church doesn't want you to be an artist, it wants you to be a worship leader.
Wow.
Because an artist performs, right? And the church doesn't understand or appreciate the performance side of the ministry and the gift that you have. It's all right if the guys do it because, you know, there's a hype and there's a vibe, but any female starts to do a two-step just a little bit much, and the whole curtain is pulled away from you. And God has given you a gift to present him through your ministry and through your purpose. But the church, no. We don't want to go there because what if it goes too far? But what if it doesn't? Do you know what I mean? We're vessels, and we understand parameters. And I've always felt that. I remember I joined a Redeemed church in Manchester, and the Geo was coming to Manchester, and they wanted me to lead on one of the songs. Now, I'm not a part of the choir because I'm not a worship leader or anything like that. So I was like, that's no problem. I'm absolutely fine. I don't know who he is because I was new in the Redeemed church. Hallelujah. But I was like, no, it's cool. The next thing I got a message to say, you're going to have to wear a hat and a skirt just below the knee. Is that okay? So I just contacted them and I said, unfortunately, that isn't a part of my ministry to wear a hat. I don't go around wearing hats. And it doesn't matter how big the person is that's coming. I need to be me.
That's right.
And for me, I found that as a woman, people don't want you to be you because the authentic you is quite offensive in some circles and on some platforms and some stages. And sometimes, even with a Mancunian accent, it's a little bit, when I go a bit south, do you know what I mean? You get a little bit of stick as well. I'll just say it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'll just say it.
That's
people
it.
don't want to take you serious because it's like, are you for real? I'm like, yeah, I'm for real. And I'm black and I love Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. I hear you.
So that's been a little bit of my isms
Amazing.
on the journey.
Absolutely.
Wow. Okay, so I'm learning a lot here, and some of it is stuff I've heard before. And what I'm realizing is that as progressive as sometimes we as men think that we are, we can't then think that the situation is fixed or whatever. And what I mean by that is this: we're in society, and we know society has over-sexualized women, suppressed women for eons. There's no way that isn't going to seep into the church. This is impossible. In fact, most of it, unfortunately, probably comes that way round, church first.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So then the question is probably an obvious one. Is there a glass ceiling? Well, there's going to be when you've just got stories that Nicola's just spoken about and like this kind of stuff you were saying. I genuinely don't feel that pressure if I wear a t-shirt that's a little bit too tight. I'll be
No, you wouldn't.
You know what I mean? I don't, if I'm showing, a little bit, exactly. We'll bust jokes, sun's out, guns out, whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not thinking in any kind of sexual way. It's my arm, it's warm.
No.
So like I'm playing.
Not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Even though I currently am part of the worship team in a Baptist church, I still, and maybe it's the legacy of being in a Pentecostal church before, I'm very aware of what I'm wearing. Constantly aware of what I'm wearing, what I look like. Am I gonna have to turn my back when I jump up and down? Am I gonna? I can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know when I jump up and down.
I can't do the Hillsong jump because I'm gonna have to turn a different direction. Do you know what I mean? So I do have to be very aware.
Absolutely.
Even though I go to a church where the brethren come with flip flops and all them kind of things, I still am very aware of what I have on. Like, is this skirt too short? If I bend over, if I have to go lean to get my Bible, is it going to be an issue on my top half? I'm very conscious and very aware of what I look like. And I may change a couple of times, sometimes, before I even leave my house. To feel comfortable enough not to offend anybody. Because I have had people come back in my previous church, it'd be like, yeah, but you can't wear them trousers. You know, why can't I wear those trousers? Those trousers are fine. Nobody else is judging me wearing the trousers. But I come to church and you're
it seems
judging
like
me.
it just takes one person.
Absolutely. It's always one. There's always one. You did put that whole outfit together. You took time and crafted that. For someone to say, yeah, but your bottom's on show in your trousers. You're like, my goodness, who's got time to look at my bottom? We should be worshiping Jesus, man.
Can I put a little spanner in the work there?
Go for it.
Can I just say, one of the things is that
cheers, man.
Go on, Noel.
Every platform I've stood at, there's protocols for that platform, even in dress. Some of it's spoken, some of it's unspoken, that do govern even men. You know, there's some platforms I stand on, I have to wear a jacket. It's not because I can wear a t-shirt and be cool, but I have to wear a jacket. There's certain platforms that I do stand on that the expectation for a tie is quite high. An open neck shirt just doesn't do it. Doesn't matter if I've got a suit.
Because you're being sexualized, though. I think it's more reverence why they make you put on a tie. They're like, oh, you've got to be but we are being told we can't wear this nice suit that I've bought that is fitted well. You can't wear it because you're looking a bit sexy. It's not out of reverence. It's just because you're a little bit sexy. You're a little bit too looking a bit saucy today. So then instantly, people who are thinking that way are shut off to you. So no matter what you've got to give to them, they don't care now because all they can see is your fitted suit that you bought on Saturday that was nice, and you put it on, but they can't, in their head, you're just too sexy now.
Absolutely.
So whatever you've got to say to me isn't real because look at you, you're sex, that's it.
I think what I wanted to ask was, I've heard you, Beck, and Donna, and Rachel say, people would say we look too sexy or that's too fitted. Do you get that more from males or females?
It's females generally.
Which I think is interesting.
Interesting.
Do you know what? In work, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, actually, yes, it's females, but actually, no. I've heard it a lot from men. Again, never to me, but I have heard, even in church, I remember a time when someone was told to sit down because they had trousers on, perfectly dressed, but the bottom of the hem of the trouser had lace.
Right.
And something about lace.
Sounds like a karaoke.
Something about lace, although it wasn't in the form of lingerie. Something about the lace was offensive. And I remember witnessing someone, it was, you know that hand there?
Wow.
Yes. And she had to sit down. And I remember asking, what was it? The lace. I said, oh, okay. So again, that was from actually a man who said that. Well, that was from men who said that. So again, the disparity is there. It's women, sometimes it's men, but the main thing is that it exists. You know, and the standard isn't the same either way.
I just found it interesting that again, I've seen it and I've heard it. I've heard people say it, and I would more hear women tear down other women from what they are wearing. Do you know what I mean? So
that's very true.
I more find that. So I just found that quite a bit of an interesting thing.
That's very
Even though there's a glass ceiling and you're told what to wear, I hear it coming from a lot of females. She thinks she's that, she's dressed that way. Do you know what I mean?
Do you think that's because of the situation, women have been made to pit each other against themselves? Like there's not enough space for them. That's a question. Because usually you could jump in, right? But usually that happens when people feel that they have to fight for the same space. Go on, Ryan.
I think that, just to Joseph's point, part of the reason why you might hear that a lot from women is conditioning. And that conditioning and that conditioning comes from the men. And so, and that conditioning goes beyond what you're wearing. That conditioning goes even to what age you should be married by as a woman, and when you should be having kids. And and a lot of that stuff comes from other women. A lot of women, it's women pressuring other women saying, when you're going to get married, when you have another kid. Men, we don't ask that, but it's the conditioning that where we've told them that in order to be a good church girl, these are the kind of, this is the criteria that you have to meet. And I think essentially a lot of this comes down to the fact that I think we as men are not used to seeing women, or we feel uncomfortable with seeing women in positions of power. And that's why, to Donna's point, when she was talking about the fact that, it's okay if you're the BV, if you're singing backgrounds, but the moment you have some kind of level of authority, because that's, if you're a worship leader or you're out front, you have the mic and you can command people and their attention. And I think when, as men, we do feel a little bit uncomfortable with that. One of the things I do appreciate about living here in the States, there's a lot of things I don't appreciate about the States. One of the things I do appreciate, though, is that it's not unusual, especially where I live, to see women, especially Black women, in positions of power and being able to actually, have a level of authority that we're not used to women seeing. We've just seen Kamala Harris got elected, even in business and other areas. I'm just, it's great to see that culture thriving here, but we know that that's not everywhere, and it's still very much of an issue. Like the Black church itself, Black women or women in general will outnumber Black men in the Black church more than 2 to 1. So it's fine for them to be the usher. It's fine for them to be the church nurse. It's okay for them to, take care of the children's ministry. It's fine for them to, to be the church secretary. But the moment they start ranking a little bit higher and higher, now they're the worship leader, now they're the minister of music, now they're the choir director. I mean, how many female choir directors do we really know? We know Ricky Dillard, we know Donald Lawrence, Orlando Draper, but we don't see as much women in that space because the reality is they're not taken seriously. And so I think hearing this for me as a man has really been enlightening, because it's something I never really thought about before. I never thought about that issue exists. But and I was saying in the earlier conversation with Ayo and some others that we have to be very careful as men not to dismiss this, because a lot of what I was hearing when I was hearing men dismiss this argument was very reminiscent of what I've heard white folks say about us. They will say, oh, it's not about, I don't really care about the color of someone's skin, and that doesn't really matter to me and stuff. But we can see in the statistics that clearly you do. So for me, I'm literally just here to learn, and I think it's really going to take women not only giving us the education, but it's going to take a change in our thinking as men in order for this whole issue to shift, because it goes beyond music, like I said. And so, I think that's
nice one, right? So Alicia, I want to come to you a second, because you're a musician. How long have I known Alicia now? What am I? I've probably known, about 20 years. And which is mad in itself. And Alicia's always been that drummer with a steady pocket. Always seen Alicia around, always play for loads of people, all the rest of it. But I've also always seen you around the men and them helping you and all this kind of stuff. And I realize sometimes it means that I've not considered the fact that you are a female in that space or whatever, and I've not thought about what it might be like. Is it intimidating? So now I'm not saying that you haven't been helped or anything like that, but I'm saying even with the help, what's it like being a female in that space whereby you're a drummer as well, you're always surrounded by men, probably often the only female in a band. What's that like?
I love it. Personally, I love it. I don't like, a lot of people, I'm not going to go there, but the men that I play with, I don't forget, I started with Nicky Brown, Jerry Brown, Freddie from Kojic. Yeah. So I was always around them. So I'm used to being around the men, because that's why you say I've got a steady pocket, because of them. Do you understand? But I've never had I'll tell you when I really was intimidated, it was Youngbloods days. Okay. I was the only female musician in that band. Yeah. And I wanted to sound like Josh in Youngbloods. I wanted to do what everybody else was doing. I wanted to do what Courtney was doing. And when I tried to play it in Kojic with the Redemption Songbook, it weren't happening. Do you understand? So I had to be me. And but after that, I don't know if you remember, I can't lie. In the conversation that we had before, I said to you that I can't say that I've experienced it myself because my mouth is not my own. And everybody knows me to be very outspoken. So if you try to mug me, I'm coming for you. Do you understand? And that's why, and I'm just being serious, and that's why I think a lot of people, even bishops, pastors, when they call me for meetings, they know, look, don't mug me. You're calling me. Do you understand? So if you're calling me, you want something that I've got, that means you can't mug me. So therefore, because my mouth is not my own, and I've kind of got, I don't want to say a reputation, but I'm known for being outspoken. They know not to do that.
Interesting.
Do you understand? So, but I've heard, sorry to cut, who is that?
No, it's cool. I just want to pick up on that. Would you say that you had a reputation of being outspoken because you're outspoken or because you're a woman who's speaking out?
What's a way of words? Just saying that, that's a way of words.
Way of words. Do you understand what I'm asking?
No, say it again. Say that one more time, Bishop.
All right, let me.
No, but I think it's the second. I think it's because it's a woman that's speaking out.
Okay, so what I'm saying, I'm trying to make a distinction because if I go to a meeting and say whatever's bothering me, or I feel like, I never like it. If there's a potential for somebody to be mugging me off or whatever, I feel like if I challenge that person, it would just be the fact that I didn't like what they were saying. So, as you said, you might have built up a reputation as your mouth not being your own, or you're loud, abrasive, whatever the reputation is. Is that because you are exactly that, or is it because you're a woman and women are not meant to be challenging what I say in this space? Especially remembering you spend most of your time around men. So have you had to become loud and abrasive in order to simply be heard on the same level that a male doesn't have to? That's the question.
I think loud and abrasive is just me. So I didn't have to become that. I think because that's just me, they never challenged me.
I get it.
Do you understand? Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's not something I had to become. It's something that
you
Donna
are.
would tell you, isn't it, Don?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, for real.
Fair enough.
But hold on, can I jump in there? Because I do think that just what you're saying there, Ayo, is as men, we've created this culture where women feel like if they're not that way often, they're not taken seriously. And so a lot of times when women are in positions of power, they've almost been forced to become mean and become bulldogs, not because they want to, but because without that, they don't have, unless they've got like a manager behind them that can force that. And it's often a male manager or a female manager that has that kind of aggressive energy. They're not taken seriously. And so in some ways, they've had to almost lose their femininity to try and just get respect on the level that they should have got in the first place. And so I really think that.
And I was gonna ask Rachel that as well, because I was gonna ask, who is your manager? Isn't that your husband?
My manager is my husband, but he started off as my manager. And the reason why I really respected that is because he's been in business for 20 years, maybe longer. Not as long as that. 15 years. I'm aging him prematurely. He's like, listen, don't put years on me. But he's been in business for 15 years, so I knew him actually through business first. So that's why I said at the beginning that I have to be very mindful of the fact that I have a team in place that have covered me. Because what I don't want to do is be given a platform and be rubbish in the experience of other women just because it hasn't necessarily been my experience. And I love what Ryan said about, sometimes when somebody is covered or they have somebody at the forefront being that bulldog for them, it allows them to kind of somewhat preserve their reputation, because I do feel like that's a grace I have been given. I don't have to be aggressive. I don't have to do certain things, but at the same time, I know how he negotiates. And by the grace of God, because of that, I don't have to fight certain wars. But I do wonder if it was my sister representing me or my mother represented me, whether I could be sitting here saying, actually, I don't also have to be a pit bull. Do you know what I mean? So I love that. I hadn't thought about that until you just raised it, but yeah, absolutely.
Can I just say something? Ayo, do you remember the conversations that we had before, prior? Myself, you, Ryan, the team. And one of the things that that was said is that there is not enough good female musicians. Coming out of the church, and that's why one of the reasons why there was a tug of war, as you guys remember. That's why they're not being used enough. One of the things I want to say, unfortunately I have to leave, by the way, but one of the things I want to leave here is, can we just help each other? Is that not possible? So what I'm trying to say is, a lot of the white females the white female musicians, the reason why we see them a lot is because the white males bring them along. Do you understand? They bring them along a lot. And one of the reasons why people know of me is because Nikki Brown, Jerry Brown, Freddie Thompson helped me. Do you understand? They brought me along. They said, come to a rehearsal. And this is why I said, we are a product of our own environment. As soon, I did the theatre show at Stratford, December gone. And people were calling, when they posted, they were like, can I come to the pit? Yes, you can, please come. Because I want you to be soaked in the music. I want you to be inspired. And so what I'm trying to say is, guys, if you do not think that a female musician is good enough, please bring them to a rehearsal or a gig so they can get inspired. Don't just say there's not enough good musicians. I want you to inspire us then. I want you to say, come to rehearsal, let me help you. If we're not good, we don't understand gear, and teach us. We're not going to learn if you don't teach us and help us.
I actually want to contribute to that. Something I was saying earlier about there being so many critics and not enough teachers. And I feel when it comes to women, and I've experienced this, I was saying this off stage, and when it came to even myself and growing in my artistry, and I love what Nicola said about, if we do something, it's, she's trying to be this secular artist, she's trying to sexualize the gospel. When it's actually, maybe that's just how I perform, that's just how I interact with music. But one thing I will say, just to buttress your point, was, and I always say this, I'm always humbled by the Governor B's, the Faith Childs, the JS's, those guys, I mean, they are family to me. And I know for a fact that when I first came with myself from Warsaw, and people were struggling to hear what I was saying, or struggling to understand, where does she fit? Too holy for the church, too street for the, too holy for the street, too street for the church. Like, where does she fit? It was those guys who said, well, listen, I know her, put her on my platform. So Governor would have a show at the Jazz Cafe. Rachel, come do it. Faith Child would have a show here. And Simply Andy would have a show. All these amazing, pioneering guys who were like, listen, let me share my platform with you. And if I'm honest, when it came to, not all, because there's some amazing women, the Lola Godhells and some amazing people who was such a blessing to me, being in quite a lonely position in a new town, in a new scene. But it wasn't as forthcoming with the sisters. And I wish it was. I mean, to be fair, the reason why I started my business was to be to other people what I wish desperately I had. Not another critic, but someone saying, sis, come share the platform, come do this with me. Or if it's looking a little bit too, just teach me that, actually, Rachel, if you do that, the saints are going to think this. So try this approach, you know what I mean? Without it being a, she thinks she's this, she thinks she's that. Come now, like, there's too many critics and not enough teachers. So sis, what you just said, 100% agree with. 100% agree with.
Can I
leave you?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go
can
on,
I add?
I'll see you
Take
later.
care,
Bye,
babe.
sis. Bye.
Bye. Yeah, so I'm just going to add on, because obviously my world is slightly different from yours. So on the front of worship, I have to say that some days I have not felt like I've had enough support. But I'm not going to just look on the negatives, because I think that if I didn't have Noel in my corner, I most probably wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing now. Wow. I'm not the one that you would have picked. You need to understand. I'll give you a bit of history. I'm not the person you would have picked. I came from a church where everybody could sing. So Church of God of Prophecy, oh my God, the babies could sing, everybody could riff, everyone could sing. I'm not a riffer, brethren. That's not my calling. I'm not even going to try it, yeah? I was listening to Kate Bush and Toya Wilcox when I was growing up. You understand? White people. I wasn't listening to any gospel. The only first gospel I heard was Coming Up on the Rough Side. I'm coming up. Okay, right? But that's when I got saved. I didn't even know that music even existed before I got saved. So I'm coming from a Church of England where I was a chorister, I was doing medals, I was singing opera. I come to a church where, my gosh, I'm like, do people really sing like this? Is this for real? I thought this was just the Blues Brothers, but it's not. It's reality. And so I joined the choir, and you've got all these girls that are, oh my gosh, amazing, amazing singers. And I'm like, I'm not one of them. That's not me. Right. So where do I fit? Right? So come 1993, Mr. Robinson decides he's going to call a group called Co. That's what we were called back in the day, Robinson and the group, right? We didn't even have a name, the group or Co. And he asked me to be, and I was like, why are you asking me to be part of your group? Because if you were to see the other people in that group, I'm like, I don't understand why you're asking me to be part of this, because I don't sing like these guys. And do you know what I did? I took that as an opportunity to learn. So I took it as an opportunity to learn from all the people that could sing better than me. I took it as because I wasn't, at one point I couldn't even hold a note. I'm not even going to lie about that. But I have to say, I would, look at Noel, he would tell you, let's not talk about district convention, yeah? Anyway, bless the Lord. So, but I would, had he not given me the opportunity to be part of this group of amazing, phenomenal singers, the likes of the Karen Gibsons and the likes of the Colettes and the likes of Elaine's and all these amazing singers, I would not be doing what I'm doing now. And in all honesty, I've struggled because, especially being a worship leader, I'm too white for the black church and I'm too black for the white church. So where do I fit? So automatically, whenever I've done any album, the gospel singer, no, my album's not gospel. Right. Oh, well, she doesn't sound like CeCe Winans. Yeah, but I'm not CeCe Winans. Why would I want to sound like CeCe Winans? Do you understand? So I have all these things that I'm being compared to that I'm not, that it has taken me a good 30 years to work out who the heck am I?
Wow.
And what is my sound and what is my voice? And I've had to struggle with that in church, and I've had to struggle with that in the world of work. And it's been long and it's tiring. When what you have a passion and a heart to do and see God move in, you can't, it's almost like, where do you sit in that? So had I not had a Noel, had I had not someone, why do I want to cry about it? But why, if I didn't have a Noel in my corner that saw the potential in me, saw what could be when no one else could see it, and that's the gift he's got. Because he'll pick the person that would be like, why are you picking that person? That don't make no sense. But obviously that's a God-given gift that God's given him to see in people. That actually, even Donna coming, you need to write an album, you need to write your songs, you need to get better at it. That. If I didn't have him forever nagging in my head, pushing get this right, get this stuff, do this, do that. Love him, but sometimes I wanted to strangle him. I wouldn't be brave enough to even be sitting in this arena and having this conversation because he gave me credibility. Had he not said, no, you need to use Donna, no, you need to do it. If he hadn't put my name forward, because no one else will put my name forward. Wow. Because I'm not a gospel artist. I don't do that. So nobody would have put my name forward. Nobody would bring me up and say, let me write with you, let me teach you how to write, let me teach you how to write better songs, let me help you with. If he hadn't been the person that had done that for me, I wouldn't be sitting here.
I hear you.
And that's what we need.
That's right.
We need people that will see the potential and say, come sit with me. That's right. Come learn with me. Right. Come carry my handbag.
Yes.
Yes. And come to an event. And that's what I do with some of the young people in my church. Yeah, my handbag's heavy, but that's not the point. All right, but
it's the Bible. Don't worry, no.
Yeah. But sorry, I'm sorry for welling up and crying, but I get emotional about it because had it not been for the one.
And it's interesting, right? Because I think in the past, what may have been a typical response from men, especially ones who feel like, oh, well, I've done my bit or I've helped or whatever, is like, well, why you? Or like, I've done my bit and stuff or whatever. Or why do I have to take you on? Like, I've got my own struggles or whatever. And it's like, Smooth and I were talking like last week or the week before, off the back of a conversation that was had. And we both realised, like, I really realised, like, this isn't about handouts.
Absolutely.
If you've been held back
Yeah.
for so long, you're going to need a help out. Right. So it's not because you're any less, but if you've been held back for so long, then it's actually my duty to help you. Yeah. And I want to say that because a typical response can be like, well, why do I have to? Like, you're not, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it's like, I want to ask the question, Becky, I want to come back to you. Like, as I say, when Smooth and I were talking, what came up, and Smooth, after Becky, you might want to elaborate on this. Women aren't encouraged to do the same thing men are growing up. As in, so after church, all the boys around the drummers, keys or whatever, like what are the young girls encouraged to do? Because then it's that, there aren't enough good female musicians. Well, duh.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously. So like, what's it like? I'm thinking back and I'm like, instead of me thinking back, tell me, like, what were you encouraged to do? Was it, no, you must sing in the choir, whatever, but you weren't over someone's shoulders learning keys. You weren't behind the drums. You were, I don't know, with the mothers, I don't know, seasoning the chicken. I don't know. I don't know. What was it? Like, what were you encouraged to do? I know what I was doing.
Yeah, I think I'll speak for me. Like, as you said, all the boys would gather around the drum kit.
In the corner,
whatever. And even if you went over there, you were shook to even ask, can I jump on? So from a kid, I've always wanted to play drums and be a bass player. But me go up to my guys, who at the time were big men at the time, going up to them and be like, can I? You just get the sideways look like, go downstairs, the kitchen is that, go and buy us patties and come back. Maybe when you come back, we'll let you on. Right. Or it was go and sing in the choir. Or, you were shooed.
That's what girls do.
We weren't, you never really got, if you were a girl that got on, it was either because whoever was on before fancied you. That's my church. Sorry, Wembley Church, I got a prophecy.
Oh my God! I love you. You're not gonna have to beat that out, innit?
Listen, don't laugh. Listen, my prophecy family will laugh at me. They'll know I'm a tip. But it's true. It's like, if you saw a girl jumping on, it's more than likely because someone else in the band was like, I'll teach you. You know when you're watching man that he's leaning over it, like
the movie, like the golf.
I'm being a twit, but it's true. Like literally, I saw. It's what I grew up in. It's what I saw. So I was just like, that's
interesting.
Safe. So I didn't pick up any instruments until I was 16, 17.
Wow.
That's whatever. And it was only by then when practically everybody from musicians kind of moved away from my church. But even then, I would never dare play in church. That's the man's them job. I'll run the choir.
I think a lot of it as well is the doctrines in which our churches had, and I think growing up in prophecy, Noel will testify to this. It's you'd have a certain advice of what to wear as women. So high enough neckline, low enough hemline. If you were to be a female on drums, it would be like kind of, well, you can't sit around a drum kit with a dress on. And then the flip side to that is, if you want to wear trousers, our church wasn't really into females wearing trousers.
Wow.
So it's a tricky one because, again, some of it does come back to church teaching and church doctrine, because it's like, me personally, I don't have an issue with a female musician, whether it's been in church, I help people in church or outside of church. So for me, it's not a problem, but I do think church, to a point, would regulate the musician's side of it. I don't know whether it was probably seen unfeminine to have a guitar around your neck, or the way you'd move, or, again, as I said, I think in prophecy, was it Susan? I think it was Noel? Susan from Kitter Road would be a drummer. She's the only one I kind of remember. Who was a drummer, and then she would play in convention and have on trousers, and I know people would frown at that. So it's a fact that she's got on trousers. and she sat around a drum kit. So it's quite tricky. I think it's not just the fact of they weren't allowed to play because they were females. I think attire had quite a lot to do with it.
Well. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, Nicola, I just wanted to ask you, like, does your experience kind of like what you've been hearing? Did you grow up in church? I'm not sure.
So I grew up in church, but I wasn't taken by my parents. I grew up in Cogop and Church of the Prophecy.
Did you? That's a new one. I didn't know that.
No,
you didn't know that?
You know everywhere, man.
I didn't know that.
I met Nicole at youth camp, man.
About her.
Really?
Yeah, man. I knew I liked you, man.
Yeah, Church of the Prophecy, man. Definitely. And what would happen is I lived in Cheshire and the church was in Moss Side. So I was about 9, 10 and I would get the bus and go to church in Moss Side on my own. Wow. But before that, I had to cook the dinner before that, yeah? But what I found was, is someone laughing? Right?
Go on.
Listen,
that's right.
Try roots, you know? But what I found was, Manchester is so different to the south, as I'm sure is Birmingham, Midlands. You have the white side and the black side. But what I found was when I first started, I did have management, and they'd be knocking on doors, nada. We just don't like them. I don't know if they don't like the voice or I don't know what it was. But when I connected with Ibe, he produced my second, I think my first EP, something like that. He was kind of the guy that really opened the doors. And I will say this, he would be like, right, we're going to do this track. Let me just call Governor and let me just get Governor on the track. I never spoke to Governor, this, that and the other, but he would just hook it up like that. And literally, if it wasn't for him, and that's why every single person needs a champion or a cheerleader to be that voice. Even Jesus had it. So to me, it's kind of like you need to find that as a woman. If you don't have that in a spouse or whatever, you need to find that person who believes in you. Absolutely. They believe in you, and it's undeniable. Yeah. And so we've had a relationship for the past 10 years now. Yeah. And stronger than ever. And this guy has championed, opened so many doors. And I used to be scared of London. I used to be scared of the gospel people in London because I was just like, these people, they're scary. Seriously. In my early days, it was a bit frightening to come and do a gig in London because it was like all eyes are on you you just open your mouth, not to sing, just to talk. Yeah. But like I said, I think as women, there is glass ceilings, but just break them. That's right. Break them. Don't think that you can't break them. I remember there was a gig in Manchester and Noel came to my church, and as he frequently does, he just whispered one word, and it was about 10 years ago, and he said, when you're a pioneer, it's a very different journey. When you have to pioneer in something that hasn't been done, whether it's in your city, in your town, whatever it is, it's going to be unusual. It's not going to be comfortable. And I think us women need to get on our welly boots, get in the mud and really, really get stuck in. Because if you're always expecting a handout from somewhere or someone, listen, you're going to be at the back of the queue, mate. Do you know what I mean? And the hustle and the energy that some of the men lead with, we have to get on our big girl pants and use it. Because even our femininity, it can be a superpower.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? So not being afraid, you know what I mean, to use what God's given you.
I love that, Nicola. Thank you. That was amazing. Yeah, we're wrapping up now. We've got 3 minutes.
Just talking about Nicola. I think last year, Nicola was probably the first female artist that I know within the Black community that actually did a UK tour. Okay. That I know of, and that's not taken away from anyone else, but actually did a UK tour that took her around the country. She did a date in London and went other places, and that's somebody from outer city coming and using the UK. And I think that even us here on this panel, we got to recognise that because she didn't wait for anybody to organise that herself. She actually went and did it herself. And in the UK, not many of our artists are touring. We're waiting for the phone to ring, but people ain't touring. Creating your own pathways, creating your own journey. I mean, I think one more thing. I think one of the questions that she asked in the great debate, is there a real North-South divide?
Yes. Season 3. Pow, pow, pow. Pew, 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 pew.
No.
What do you think, Noel?
Don't ask him. Don't ask him.
Please. No, we can't.
Don't ask him.
We cannot.
Don't ask him. We don't have enough time.
That one's getting shut down. Everything lock off. All right, but that is definitely coming back. That's a good one. So, Smooth, I know that you've been very quiet, very quiet.
Is he there?
Is he there?
I don't think he's there. I don't think he's there.
He's not there.
He's dropped
What am I
off.
talking about?
He was never here.
Was he never here?
No.
That's so funny.
Outtakes. I swear. Anyway.
He was here, then he disappeared.
Hey guys, so just to carry on, Jen, you're looking at me like, what are you talking about? All right, so that's a good place to
Can I add? Can I just say one last thing, please? Sorry.
Save
On the
me.
back of what Nicola has just said, that actually what we can do for each other is champion each other. We can actually support each other. So if Nicola puts something out, we share it.
Yeah.
We champion her. We say get behind her, listen to her music, etc., so that we support each other.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. Rather than leaving her out there in no man's land, actually. Follow her on Instagram, find her on Twitter, wherever else you need to find her. Follow her and share her stuff, whatever she's doing, whatever she's involved in. I think we just really need to champion each other. A whole lot more than we have done as women.
Yeah.
As women. I can't really talk for your mans then, but for the women,
that's why we're here.
we need to champion each other. Yeah. We need to shout in each one of us corner. If somebody's doing something, we make sure we're there. We make sure we share what's going on. We share the love and we support each other, because I think that will speak volumes, and it will also let us know that someone's got our back. You know, fair enough, we're doing different things, and we're going, you know, Beck's doing choir, you're doing something else, I'm doing something else, Nicola's doing something else, and so many others are doing something else, but just getting behind each other and just saying, raving about each other, sharing, you know, each other's content, and championing each other and just really celebrating one another. We don't do that as black women very often.
But it starts with relationship.
And it does start with relationship.
Look at that.
So find me on Instagram and we can share and we can have relationship. I'm being honest.
That's what I was
Find
saying
me on
to you earlier on
Instagram.
today. So sometimes it's about personalities. What hinders a lot of people, and if everybody was just to be honest and just say, well, look, you know, maybe I didn't like this about you, or I heard this about you, and you squash it and you move on. A lot of it isn't even the content of what people do. It's personalities and relationship. Once you get that sorted out,
definitely.
And it also,
Last one. No, it's cool. Last one.
Even what Donna said before about Noel, guys, my brothers, and if I call you my brother, and you see me as your sister, or you have a friend who's your sister, that's your bona fide, you lot hang out, you chat, and you know that they have something, either they're a singer or they're a musician, whatever it is, blah blah blah, bring them in. It's not hard. What Noel did, he looked at Donna and said, you know what, she's got something, let me work on that. If you see something in someone, don't be like, you'd be good, you know, but you're just not ready yet, and then walk off. What kind of friend, are you my brother or not? Do you know what I mean? So like, example, me and Ace worked together for a good minute, and the amount of stuff that Ace trusted me with, I'm looking at Iola, he's great, and he's like, fam, I know you got it, just run it, just do your thing. You're not going to have an iPad on stage, you're not going to read no parts, you learn the parts in rehearsal, do your thing, 30 songs, go. And he trusted me, he believed in me enough, more than I believed in me, but he believed in me enough to say, I know Bex can do it, to do it. So if you see your brethren, your sister in, or whatever you want to call her, and she got something, push her, like bring her in, bring them in, man, because otherwise, what's the point? There's no point in you bringing in 10 man and then the girl who's better than the 10 man, you're like,
But
anyway.
Wow. Well, this has been very eye-opening. Some of it I've heard before, some of it is new, and it's more about not being new in the story, but new in the way that I'm thinking when I'm hearing it, and really understanding that it's important that we stop marginalizing women from society right down to in our churches. And even the ones of us who are trying to help, we can't stop, and we need to be even more active. You know what I mean? And encourage, we as men need to challenge the men who are not doing their part and who don't really get it. You know what I mean? So I want to thank everybody for coming on. I want to thank you, Donna, Rachel, Nicola, Bex, Alicia, for being brave and telling your story, because I know that this is not an easy thing. I don't know how much of this is happening or has happened. And I made a joke earlier about like, this is a safe space. And I was like, the internet, you know what I mean? Like, it's probably the opposite. So it's definitely been brave of you guys to do that. And I think that you all did an amazing job of letting us know. And you probably took it easy on us, letting us know what's been going on and also how we can help you. You know what I mean? So guys, let us know what you think in the comments. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's keep the conversations healthy so that we can get better and better. Like, subscribe to the Top Entertainment YouTube, and share with your friends, share with whoever needs to see this. And yeah, I think we're done. Wicked.